Hi, everyone. Today, I'm so honored to have with me Malka Kelter. We became fast friends over a year ago when Malka reached out to us, NechamaComfort. Her story is so interesting, but not unique. And I've invited her here today to share her story, to share some of her writing, to share her connection with NechamaComfort. And Malka lives in Katamon, Jerusalem, Israel. And I was so fortunate a couple of weeks ago to go to Israel, where we're going to be establishing NechamaComfort's presence, and to really meet with Malka. And hopefully Malka will be joining Team NechamaComfort as well. So without further ado, Malka, welcome today. Thank you for joining me. Very jealous that you're in Jerusalem and I'm still in New Jersey. But thank you so much. Malka,
You never know.
You never know. That is true.
You never know.
That is true. And Malka and I have played Jewish geography, which we all love to do, and we know we're all connected. So we realize that Malka's parents and my great-grandparents and her family knew each other in Hartford, Connecticut, many, many years ago. So there's always that kinship that people try to form. And that's what we try to do in NechamaComfort. We're creating a community so that nobody feels alone. So Malka, please share your story with those listening today.
Thank you, Reva. It's very, my hand is here. Share my story. Share my story. Okay, so takes us back to, I was married in Israel in 1977. And my first pregnancy, it took a while and I got pregnant. And in February of 1979, at the end of my 8th month, all of a sudden I needed to go to the hospital for monitoring something or other. And it was over Shabbat and I stayed there by myself. And then it turned out that there were contractions, and then it turned out that they did an X-ray, and then it turned out that there were twins, which I didn't know about in 1979. There were ultrasounds, but I still didn't know. And then it turned out that the first one was breech, and then I had a cesarean, and then born a boy and a girl, which was the double joy of was wonderful. So Saturday night, my husband came and told my parents, and everybody was thrilled. I mean, thrilled. Within a couple days, within a short time, I developed some kind of tropical disease, and I was in quarantine there. And within a short time, my little girl, who later on we named Chaya, developed something, and they took her away I was in Hadassah Hospital, which I was in Ein Karim, which is in the west end of town, and there was another Hadassah Hospital on Mount Scopus, which had a unit for preemie babies, and she was taken there. And I really had no idea what was going on because I was not well because of something I contracted in the hospital, I think. And the next thing I know, my gynecologist came to somebody told me that she had died. I don't really remember all this going on exactly at all. And then all of a sudden the little boy was sick and he was taken away. And then I remember the doctor came again and I said, here comes the angel of death, Malach HaMavet. And he passed away. And I don't know what happened after that. I know that we went home. I had this big stomach, and then there was nothing. There was nothing. There was no stomach. There was no baby to come home empty-handed on the first pregnancy. There was no Shiva because it's a little baby, and with all due respect, whether you call it Shiva or you don't call it Shiva, people need to mourn and people need to grieve and people need to share. And I had no way of doing that. And no one suggested it to me at the time. And people that saw me cross the street to the other side because they didn't know what to say. And all anyone said to me in the establishment was, okay, come back next year, you know. Nobody gave me any, there was no social worker. There was no support anywhere. There was nothing. There was just nothing. Just me alone. My ex-husband did not give me any kind of emotional support that was helpful. And I can't tell you what happened. All I know is that it was taboo subject for many, many, many years. My analogy is that it was like Superman is can't be near kryptonite and he puts it in a lead box. So this pain was in a lead box, buried in under a trap door far below with a cut over it, so the Nazis wouldn't find it. That's how deep I buried this within my soul. And I never talked about it to anyone, never took my parents to the cemetery. When my parents came to visit in Israel, I never took them to see the grave because number one, I didn't know where it was. And the infant section of the cemetery was just rows and rows of asphalt, no marker, no nothing. And I was ashamed. On top of the pain and hurt and tragedy, it was shame. There's two little babies there somewhere under this. So we never went for many, 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 many years. Thank God I have 3 healthy sons after that. Never talked about it with them. I remember if I was ever watching a TV program and there was a little baby, I would run out. If any friends had, little babies, I couldn't be there. Many, many years, and never told my children until my oldest son was bar mitzvah. And I told him that he was not a bechor, he was not a firstborn. And then we told the other 2 also who were close in it, not too young, much younger than him. But never talked about it. Just every once in a while would maybe explode about it, but never cried about it and just buried it. So in about 2003 or 4, at that time, there was an intifada going on in Israel. And children were dying and getting blown up on buses. And I went with a friend to the cemetery. And on the way back, I remember thinking that, I light candles for Shabbat and I light 3 extra candles for my 3 sons. And if God forbid something would happen to a child, the mother probably wouldn't stop lighting lighting an extra candle. And I said, I want to start lighting 2 extra candles for these twins. And I went and I got this little twin tea light thing in between. They're linked together, they're twins. It says Shabbat Kodesh. And I started lighting 2 more candles. And to this day, I light 2 more candles for them. And before that, I forgot. Before that, we had decided that we wanted to find where they were. And we went to the Burial Society organization, the Chevra Kadisha, and they had a map, and they had a chart, and they looked it up and they found that it was in such and such a row, in such and such centimeters from the edge. The 2 of them were in 125 centimeter plot under the asphalt. And we measured it and we had a stone plat marker put down flat on the ground, not standing up, lying on the ground. The twins, their last name, and the 2 dates that they passed away. On 2 dates, there's 2 separate yard sites. So that we had done before. But then and the next stage was the candles, and I wrote a poem, Reowning, which I'll read at the end. Because that was when, and I also did some art therapy for myself. I was trying to work it through at that point. And so I think at that point also I could take my parents at least to see the grave because there was a marker. And little by little, but still it was a very, very, very slow process. Extreme pain. And whenever anyone would mention, or anybody would mention that somebody had a baby or grandchildren, if they were premature, like I couldn't hear about it because I don't want to say, oh, everything will be okay. But I also don't want to say, God forbid. So I just would like go away. I couldn't relate to it. And I would just get up and go away, or I would be talking and someone would say, oh, my daughter this or somebody that. And I would just like silent. And my husband, my current husband, could see what was going on and could see in my eyes I was not there. Oh, one other thing. Soon after I got married 8.5 years ago, and the first yort site after that, which was approximately 2009. This was in 2010. That in the middle of the night, I woke up feeling all kinds of somatic sensations in my body. I was crying, I was screaming, I was kicking, I was contractions, not birth contractions, but just my body. You know, they say that trauma is either fight or flight or freeze. And all this frozen trauma that had been locked up inside of me, that, you know, a dog, if he plays dead and then the lion goes away, he shakes it out. And I had never shaken it out. So that night I started shaking it out. And I think at one point then I finally started relating to, I used to just say the boy and the girl, or he or she, like her name was Chaya and his name was Chaim. I could finally relate to them more as real babies. I was like, it was more, I was making progress. I was healing more, that I could relate to them more. And again, it's been going on and on and on a little bit. A few years ago, I finally sponsored a kiddush in my synagogue, and I shared this. We were just talking about coming out of the closet, because it's a horrible thing. I mean, I don't want to go around dumping my trauma on people, but to just hold it in and not be able to share it, it's part of me. I mean, it's not over, finished. Sometimes something happens and it's finished, but this is not finished. There's a scar on my stomach. There's a scar in my soul. There's 2 candles. It's part of who I am.
Right.
So I shared it in shul. And then by chance, so last October was my 70th birthday, and a couple months before, shortly before that, you know, we all have these WhatsApp groups for all different kinds of organizations. And some woman in some WhatsApp group for some other purpose mentioned something that somebody had lost a child, and I contacted her, and she told me about NechamaComfort, and I contacted NechamaComfort, and I said, I want to do something, and you helped me, Reva and the whole organization helped me organize a campaign, and I sent out all these letters to all these people. Now, one of the things that's happened since Corona is I got together with a group of friends that know me since elementary school. They didn't know that. I mean, we've been in touch. Now we're in touch once a week, but so many of that. Now I could finally share this, like, this is who I am, and I could share this, and they had no idea. And other people that have known me for many, many, many years, but had no idea, because again, I would never share it real time. And years later, by the way, and this was such a healing experience for me to finally share it, and people responded, and we collected money, and it's really been a part of a healing process to me. Another step in that direction was about 1.5 years ago. A good friend of mine, her son had twin boys, and I was afraid I might have to stop contact with her because she'll mention twins, and I'll freak out. But I went to that Brit and I held one of those twin babies for a very, very long time. And I had never held one of my twins. One was in an incubator and one wasn't, but I had never held a twin. And I held him for a very, very long time till I could finally say farewell and give him over. And that was also a very, very, very important stage of my healing process. And I feel now that I'm healed. That kind of helped me, and also like to realize whatever, and anything I can do now to help anyone else because keeping it a secret inside is not healthy. So I want to share these two poems. One is called Reowning, which, as I said, 2004. Sometimes a person suffers the pain which is impossible to comprehend. Pain is acute and traumatic. Her world has come to an end. There's no way for her to deal with the pain which stabs her heart and her soul. So she does what she must do to stay alive, though she pays a terrible toll. Like a gangrenous limb which threatens a life and must be amputated, she severs a part of her heart and soul. The feelings are just negated. The grief and sorrow, unbearable, are cut off and buried alive, so that her body can function at all. She manages to survive. So in that grave with her tragic loss, she entombs a piece of herself, but she doesn't even realize the truth of what's lost of her soul and her health. She goes on with her life with a stiff upper lip and nary a backward glance, not realizing the price that she has paid to live her life in a trance. Throughout the years, she may take a peek, but the pain is still so intolerable that she stays away as much as she can. She still is too weak and vulnerable. But when she finally reaches the point where she's ready to look within, she sees the scar that is there in her soul, and a process of healing begins. She's finally able to start to unlock that vault which held her pain. She begins to release the chains on her heart so that growth and health she can gain. She opens the coffin inside her soul so that piece of herself can emerge, and her life source can suture the wound within, and her nurturing can surge. So she goes to the grave in which they lie with the part of herself she disowned, and she shares the truth and reality so her children can be reowned. May God continue to show her the way towards acceptance of things she can't change, with courage to take them back into her heart and reclaim the loss she estranged. And so there's other poems that I wrote when I wrote to Chaya, when I wrote to Chaim, about the process, but I want to share this one, which is from 2020. And I want everyone to know that it's real and it really hurts and it's pain and it doesn't go away and it's okay. It's okay to feel what you feel, and there's no time limit and there's no stopper, and it's called Forever. From the moment he or she is born, the love we feel for a baby is special, unconditional, instantaneous, eternal. And even if that baby lives only a few days, my love for him is etched into my soul. My love for her is part of me. No matter how many decades pass, that love will never die or even fade away. I will never forget you. So,
Malka, I'm speechless, which doesn't always happen. Listening to your story and listening to the poems, I'm with you. I'm within my own grief and loss. Sometimes people ask me, how do you do this all the time? Do you remember your baby? Does it hurt? And I say all those things. And what you just said, you never forget. And that is a question that that I get many, many times. Will I forget my baby? Will I forget what's going to happen if I move on? We never like to say move on. We like to say move through it. And that's so true. And that if you don't deal with your grief and loss, you're an example, I'm an example of how it festers in you, and you need to share this, and you need to really deal with your grief and loss. And one of the other things with NechamaComfort is choices. And it's choices. We want couples to have the choices. We never tell them what to do. And I think by you discussing what it was like in Israel in 1978. And it wasn't any different in America in 1987 when I had my son passed away. And it's still the same in some places and communities and within families that that it's not talked about, that it's not dealt with. And I think that's so important what you've just shared, and that it's never too late to recognize your children, to recognize the grief and the loss. And what you did is an example of putting them into your lives, Chaya and Chaim. You know, we always encourage families to name the baby, whatever that is, if it's privately, personally, sharing it only with your partner, not sharing it, coming out, as you say, to the world. It's so important. And I honor you, and I feel your pain, but I also feel how you survived, how you have conquered it. And that's what is so important. And
Thank you.
thank you, Malka, for sharing this story. You're going to help so many people. And again, how you reached out to NechamaComfort was just, you know, we don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences. And
I do, but they call it in Hebrew, mikre.
Right.
And mikre is mem kuf resh, and if you rearrange the letters, it's resh kuf mem he, which is only from God.
And that is true.
I have to say that.
I so agree with you. There was a reason we connected before your 70th birthday. There was a reason for all of this. And I just want to thank you today for sharing that beautiful poetry, that beautiful writing, sharing your story, and helping so many others to put this into their lives. And we look forward for Malka joining the team in Israel, but really there are no borders anymore. We look forward to sharing many more of your writings, and we'll be sharing it on our social media and your artwork. I was so enamored by your artwork that you showed me as well. I want to thank you and for everyone here to understand the importance of NechamaComfort. You quickly have mentioned your campaign, but we're in the process now of campaigning, so to say, on behalf of our families. And whatever you can give back is so appreciated. And Malka, you're an example how you're giving back yourself, your thoughts, your wisdom, your honesty, as well as helping to give us funding to help these families move through their lives. So on behalf of NechamaComfort,
Very important to try to help these families deal with it in a better, healthier way. And that's what you're there for. And I never knew that you existed. And, you know, it's a miracle that you exist, not a miracle, but it's wonderful that you exist and you're there for these people, because it's such a feeling of being alone. And you don't have to be alone with NechamaComfort. You don't have to be alone.
Thank you. Thank you, Malka.